Hello students, good day. In today's session we are going to continue with constraints. So in the previous session we have learned about 4 constraints and today we are going to learn about primary key constraint and foreign key constraint. So these two are very important constraints. Primary key, so this one we have already learned, right? You know the term what is primary key. So this one used to uniquely identify each row in a table. Okay, so this is the unique identification for the entire record. So if you set any column as a primary key column, then the values in that column should be unique. Okay, no duplicate values allowed and no null values allowed. So this constraint ensures no null, not null, and then duplicate entries, no duplicate entries. Okay, so in a table only one primary key is allowed. Okay, and then combination of fields can act as a primary key. This is called composite key. So we'll see this later. Before that we'll move on to the syntax of how to create primary key, how to create primary key constraint. So in the create table name. If you want to set doc id as a primary key, then as usual you have to give the column name and then data type, then you have to specify primary key. Okay, so this doc id column is declared as primary key now. So any values you are inserting, that should be unique value, and then you should not enter any null values inside the column doc id, because using this doc id we are going to identify the entire record, right? So that's why the primary key constraint is given. Or in another way what we can do, so in the create table name, as usual you can specify all the column names with data types. At last, after declaring all the columns, then you can specify primary key. Inside the brackets you can specify the column name. So in this way also we can declare the primary keys. Okay, so either you can use it with the column name, or after declaring all the columns, at the last you can specify the primary key, right? And then so let's see the demonstration. I'm going to create a table called doctor table. Create table doctor, doc id as integer 4, and then I'm giving it as primary key. Then I have doc name, varchar, then I have department, okay. So when you see the description of the table, you can find that doc id is a primary key. Okay, PRI shows it's a primary key, right? So while inserting the values, one record is inserted. If you try to insert the same record, it displays the error duplicate entry, and instead of this one, if you give the null value, it gives the same result. Column D doc id cannot be null. Okay, so this will not accept duplicate values or null values. So that's the primary key constraint. Then how to alter this, how to drop this primary key? Alter table doctor, you have to use add clause to use the to drop the primary key. Sorry, to add the primary key at the alter table. So alter table doctor, add primary key. So while creating the table you can use this one. If the table is already created, then you can use the alter table command to add the primary key. Okay, and to drop the primary key, alter table doctor, drop primary key. So as a table contains only one primary key, if you drop the primary key will be deleted. There is no need to give the column name here, right? So we'll go to the composite key. Okay, so in a table I don't have any unique fields. Let's see this one. So I have a table called demo table, which has name, city, and then date of joining, right? And then if you consider this one, there is no unique values, right? So Saran is repeated here. In city also this is repeated here. Mumbai and Chennai cities are repeated here. So if you want to set a primary key, which one you can set it as a primary key? There is no option, right? So in this case, what we can do, we can combine the result of name and city. Okay, so we combine name and city together. So Arav Mumbai, that is a unique value. Okay, Girish Mumbai, that is a unique value. So when you combine two columns, if you get the unique value, you can set both columns as a primary key. The combination of columns as a primary key. Right? So how to create, this table is already created, and if you want to set it as a primary key while creating the table, what you can do, so create table doctor, doc ID, doc name, everything is given. Then while giving the primary key constraint, inside the bracket doc ID comma d name. Okay, so in this case what you can do, name comma city. Right, here at last primary key name comma city. So this method is useful when creating composite keys. So you cannot use this way because in a table we can have only one primary key. So you cannot use two primary keys while creating the table. If you want to combine doc ID and doc name, you cannot use doc name varchar 20 and then primary key, because that table can have only one primary key. So what we have to do, we have to go for this way. So after declaration of all the columns, you have to use the primary key, and inside the bracket you can give doc ID comma and then the next column which you are going to make it as a composite key. Okay, so since the table is created here, I am going to use the alter table command. I am going to use add primary key. So we are going to make the combination of name and city as a primary key. Okay, you can give name comma city. Okay, so alter table, the table name is demo here. Okay, let's see the description of this table. DSE demo. Right, so you can see the primary key is set for the combination of name and city. Right, so in this case the next thing is how to delete the key. Okay, how to delete a column. For example, if I am going to delete the column city, right, so since you declared the combination of key as a primary key, if you delete the city column, then automatically name becomes the primary key. Right, so it will search for the values inside the table which has some duplicate values, right? So if it to be the primary key, then there should not be any duplicate value, right? So in this case your deletion will not happen, right? So let's see this one. I'm going to drop the table, drop a column. So the command is alter table demo drop city. Okay, so duplicate entries are for key 1. So this denotes if the city column is deleted, automatically name becomes the primary key, right? Since it has duplicate values, it will not be a primary key. So this column deletion will not happen. So in this case, if you don't have the entries aren't there, delete from demo. Name is equal to city is equal to. Okay, so the city name I have given as Mumbai. Okay, so this one is N. By mistake I have given as Mumbai. Now you use the delete command. So this will be executed because now after deleting the city column, name becomes the primary key and it does not have any duplicate values. So that will become the primary key now. Okay, so this is called composite key, and this is the effect of deleting a column when you are using the composite key. Right? Next we have foreign key constraint. Okay, so this is the primary key of one table is referred in another table. Right? So this foreign key is used to connect, used to relate two tables. Okay, it enforces referential integrity. Okay, what is referential integrity? This is the property of a relational database which ensures that no entry in a foreign key column of a table can be made unless it matches the primary key value in the corresponding related table. Okay, what we are going to do, we are going to connect two tables together. Right, so let's, for example, I have a student table and then parent table. right? So in student table I have student ID, name, and then date of birth. Okay, in parent table I have parent name and then contact, right? So how to relate this table? We have the common ID which is called student ID, right? So student ID is a primary key in student table. That key I can use it in the parent table. Okay, so in this way we are connecting the student table and parent table together, right? And student table is called as a parent table here because it has the primary key, and the parent table, as it has the foreign key, it refers the student key. So this here it is called a child table, right? So what is referential integrity? We cannot insert any value which is not present in the parent table. For example, we have only 3 students. Okay, so these 3 students you can only use it in the parent table. You cannot refer any value which is not present in the student table. Okay, and then the student table is used inside the parent table, right? And you cannot alter or you cannot update the student table for which the value is referred in the parent table. Okay, so we'll see this with the demonstration. Before that, we'll see how to create the foreign key, right? So create table name, and then you have to use the primary key and then all those things at last. Okay, after declaring all the columns, you have to use foreign key, and then inside the bracket you have to give which is the foreign key, right? And then you have to use references doctor of doc ID. Okay, so here in this case what I'm doing, I have already created a doctor table, right? And I'm going to create a parent table with parent ID as a primary key and parent name, date of admission, and doc ID. So this doc ID I am referring to the table doctor. Okay, so that's what I have mentioned you, the foreign key doc ID, references doctor of doc ID. From the doctor table I am referring this doc ID, right? So the column names can be different, data types must be same. So foreign key, in declaring this doc ID here, you can use any column name, but the data type should be same, right? So it is not necessary that you have to use the same column name which is used in the parent table. Okay, here doctor is a parent table and patient is a child table, right? Let's see this demo. So I'm going to create a table now. Okay, so one doctor we have already inserted, right? Okay, so let's create the patient table. Create table patient ID integer, I'm giving it as primary key, then patient name varchar, then I have DID. Okay, so DID, this is integer, and foreign key DID. So this DID I'm going to references doctor of doc ID. So this DID I'm getting the reference from doctor table doc ID column. Okay, so this is how we have to create the child table, right? So what is the way, so how the referential integrity is maintained? Whatever the value which is present in the parent table, only those values you can insert into the child table, right? Let's insert the value. Insert into patient values. Patient ID is 1. This is patient name, and you can refer either 34 or 35, right? So the value is inserted. Now what happens if I refer the value which is not present in the doctor table, right? So this doctor ID is a reference for the doctor table. So if I am trying to insert the value which is not present in the doctor table, then you will get the error, right? So in this way it maintains the data integrity because we have only these 2 doctors. So you can refer only these 2 doctors for the patient. So you cannot refer the doctor who are not present there, right? So this is called referential integrity. And another way, if you are trying to change the values in parent table, for example, if you are updating any values, so I'm going to change the doc ID where department is equal to ENT. update doctor, set doc ID is equal to, so I'm going to change the doc ID 34, so which is already used in the child table, right? So this will not be accepted because it is already referenced in the child table. You cannot change the values, right? So already this child table is using the ID 34. So in this case, you cannot alter this value, right? So this is called referential integrity. So this way the data is maintained, the data's integrity is maintained here, right? So any changes that should be related to both tables, right? And then how to alter this table, how to use this constraint while once the table is created. So you can use the alter table command, alter table patient, add foreign key ID references doctor of ID. So in this way you can insert the foreign key once the table is created. And how to drop the foreign key. So to drop the foreign key you have to do two steps. So first we have to find the constraint name using the function show create table and then the table name. So after finding the constraint name, you have to use it along with the drop, alter table patient, drop foreign key and then the constraint name. So I'll show this one. So we have to use show create table patient. So this will shows the constraint name for the foreign key. Okay, for the foreign key DID, the constraint name is patient underscore IBFK underscore 1. So this constraint ID you have to use along with the drop to drop the foreign key constraint. Okay. So you can see it here, alter table patient drop foreign key, then I have used the constraint name patient underscore IBFK underscore 1. So this eliminates this drops the foreign key column. So here I am trying to insert 11, we know 10. So 10 is the doc ID. So this doc ID is not at all present in the table doctor. So since we remove the foreign key constraint, this value will be accepted now. So you can see the patient table. So it has 34, 3, 10. But in the doctor table we have only doc ID 34 and 35. Right. So this gives some wrong information, right? So this is not the complete data, right? So you cannot use the doc ID which is not at all present in the doctor table. So that's why we have to use the foreign key constraint that enforces referential integrity, right? So you have to use only the doctors who are present in the doctor table for the patients. So that's all about today's class. Thank you.